Hey guys, today we're going to go over our blue belt curriculum here. We're going to start with number one, which is a two-hand grab to the wrist, and it is begging hands. So in this technique, my partner is grabbing my wrists here, and I want to swim my thumbs inwards. This way it starts to break the grip on her thumbs, so her thumbs are going away, okay? So I'm going to come in, and as I do this here, I'm going to step back with my left foot right into a cat stance. Now she's holding on to me really hard, and I pull inward. She's going to step in with me, okay? And I'm going to feed that with a kick, okay? And that kick can go around the belt region or to the groin one more time. So I'll step back with my left foot. I come in, I kick. I get the reaction of her head coming down. So right here, my hands shoot to my side to make sure that that grip releases. And then I kick here, which raises her up. And then I plant in with my left foot as I drive two inward heel palms into her floating ribs at a 45-degree angle, okay? So again, I'm here, and I drop back. So one, and as this is releasing here, I'm kicking at the same time. I don't want to pause in that cat stance. 1, 2, my hands are already loaded, so when I land, I'm raising her up. Now, of course, she was bent over a little bit, but if I do that kick, the second kick, as a chicken kick or full force in any way, she's gonna stand right back up. So 1 and 2, she's standing up. So exposes those ribs. And then from here, I would cover out towards 4:30. You do it facing this 12 o'clock here. As I step back, of course she's grabbing real tight. She follows with me, and as this pulls, there's my first kick. I plant, second kick to the chest or the face, and then I drive in nice and low. Remember, when I'm changing my levels, I don't change this way, okay? If I kick to the chest and accidentally hit her in the solar plexus, and I'm changing levels by bending forward, then that literally gives her my back, okay? So I want to change levels with my legs so I'm aware of any reaction that I didn't intend with begging hands. Okay, so that's begging hands. Now we come into thrusting wedge, and this is a push or a choke. If she's pushing me to my chest, I'm stepping in and wedging my forearms in this space, almost like a parry. So it opens up her elbows and goes right into her eyes with my thrusting fingers. If it's a choke, it's the same thing. She comes in and chokes. I drive in to the eyes, okay? And when I hit to the eyes, you can do thumbs in, so you can go fingers first, thumbs in, and then rip out at like 45-degree angles downwards, okay? The idea here is when she comes in, whatever she's doing, pushing or going with a choke, and I come in, if I poke her in the eyes, where's her hands gonna wanna go? They're gonna wanna come up. So as I do this thumb and rip, keep your hands where they are, my hand literally rolls onto, my left hand rolls onto her right wrist, and I jerk this in and go into my reverse bow, all the way around the back. I don't have to go into a reverse bow. I can keep my knee against her leg. I don't have the same range that I do when I pull and turn, okay? You may say, well, you're giving her my back. I am, but I'm also checking her height and her depth, which stops that arm from being able to hit. So she comes in, I poke to the eyes, her hands come up, I'm ripping, and I pull right there, okay? And now as I continue to pull, I get this frictional pull here. I just unwind with the heel palm to the bridge of the nose and rip down through her body. So I land in a right neutral bow, okay? We do this facing forward. She comes in with a push. I'm stepping in and wedging. Her hands come up, I grab, and I pull into this upward elbow. And now I reverse this motion, heel palm, and rip. Now when I rip down, my left hand will check high. If we do it this way one more time, you can see that inside hand. So we have 1, 2, as I pull. You can go all the way in that reverse bow if you want to. It really gives you a lot of pull towards 6 o'clock with your left arm, which really drives her in. And now I unwind and I switch my hands. I want to go to the extension. My left hand is high. This way, hit her in the groin. She's not going to come in and headbutt me. Okay? So then I'm here, and then I will cross and cover out towards 7:30. Okay, thrusting wedge. Now we have flashing wings. This one is a step through right punch. We'll start from this side. Actually, let's start from this side. This way you can see the elbow. So as she steps through with the right elbow, right punch, I'm stepping up and blocking at the elbow. There's still some space between us. I'm already kind of past the line of entry with my left foot, but if I was to throw an elbow, I'm about 4 inches away. So with a long range weapon, this would work fine, being past that line of entry. I need to be way past that line of entry. So from this point where I hit that elbow, I'm gonna push drag in. Now you notice, if I push drag, just keep this arm up, straight in, her leg winds up between my legs. So I'm gonna change my angle just a little bit. If I was going towards 11:30 the first time, in the first example, this time I'm gonna shift off to 11. And what that's gonna do is cause my right knee to crash into the backside or like kind of 3/4 view into her leg, which is gonna essentially turn her body around just a little bit, okay? So again, she throws that punch, I step up and block. I don't wanna push drag here because then I'm at her shoulder and she can back knuckle me, she can wrap around and choke, okay? So I don't wanna push drag first. Let's step back just a little bit. Okay, so she throws that punch one more time. I block. And now my right hand is just by its side, point of origin. And now I shoot. You can see I change the angle so my knee starts to turn her around. So I have access to all this good stuff right here. And at that point, my block becomes just a brace and angle check as I rip this elbow through 1, all the way out, and 2, back to her kidney. Now here is an extra move that's nice to stick in here if you can reach. I'm a pretty tall guy and I have very long arms, so it's easy for me, but if you're shorter in stature and the other person is maybe just a little bit thicker as far as their shoulder width and stuff like that, this won't work for you, okay? So I'm gonna go 3/4 view where we're coming out from the corner, so that's a 12. So she shoots in, I'm blocking, and I shoot here. Now look at my left hand, that check turns into an offense. So I rip with my outward elbow and pull her face into me, and I get that chop right there. And now from here, I'm gonna go into a reverse bow facing 430 as I throw an inward forearm or a ridge hand to the back of the skull, back of the ear, back of the base of the neck, just to bend her over. And you can see my right arm grabbed and controlled her hand. And now I'm gonna switch from my close kneel into a close kneel facing 12, which is back to where 430 was for us in this room. I come back here, as this comes down, I do an upward lifting chop under the throat, under the chin, okay? If I was just facing the camera and doing this, one sec, Kel. So we have 1, I have 2, and look at my left hand, it reaches over as I go into this closed kneel, and pull, and I'm gonna turn to my horse right here. And now, as this arm grabs the other arm, his right arm, I shoot this ridge hand into a reverse bow. And now this just goes over as I let go with my right hand, and I turn back to my closed kneel facing 12 as I strike. Let's do it from this angle now. Okay. She throws the punch. 1, 2, rip and pull. 3, I'm going to neutral, and this horse, as I settle, is striking and turning at the same time into my reverse bow. It's all kind of happening at once. So 1, all the way around. And that hand is grabbing low. And I reverse this onto her Achilles tendon here as I strike up. 1 more time. There's a lot of moves in this technique. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way around that corner. And my knee is just crashing into her knee. Okay? Thank you, Kelly. And now we have number 4, which is hugging pendulum. And this is a right front, step through right thrusting front knife edge kick. Boy, did I just say that? Don't hug this already. Okay, so hold on. I start in the right neutral bow because a lot of times in Kempo, when we're doing kicking techniques, because you don't typically get suckered into a kick or a sucker kick, that usually happens with punches. When we deal with a kick, we're already in a fight. That's the scenario that we're in. So I'm on guard already because we're already fighting. So that's why she's throwing in the middle of throwing kicks. So she throws a right thrusting knife edge kick to my ribs or whatever it is. I'm gonna angle off, okay? So my hands are already on guard. So when she does that, I shuffle and knock her to the side. You can see my right hand goes down to 430 and my left hand is already high. I'm gonna utilize this check here. As I hug over, I just kind of jam her a little bit. Now this doesn't have to be a heel palm. I'm kind of exaggerating this move, okay? Because I whacked her real good and she spun a little bit further, so that's why I'm reaching out so far. She spun probably further than she would have spun. So this is really just a check. But as I come in, I'm gonna bump her just a little bit, okay? And now I'm gonna come up here with a knife edge kick and kick her knee. Really any knee that's closest to you. If I have access to the right leg, then that's what I'm gonna do. And as I plant, my right hand's gonna come down, my left hand's already out, across her left ear, or mastoid. And then I'm gonna keep checking her down as I wind up into a forward bow. And now this hand unwinds, I go to the other side. Now back over, okay? Now, if I was to switch and kick, if I had access to the left leg, it's gonna turn her more clockwise towards me, which gives me the access to the other side of the face. So I'm here with one. As I come in here, I can bump against her left shoulder and take out her left knee. And now look where she is. So now I'll hit to the right side of the face. One, check that shoulder. I can even grab the shoulder and bring her back into me as I hit that heel palm on my way out. Okay, if we do this facing 12, remember there's no rules, okay? It's whatever leg you have access to. It might change your target a little bit when you switch like that, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. If you're breaking the principle, then it's wrong. But we're not breaking the principle, we're just shooting to what is accessible. Okay? So from here, she throws the kick, I shuffle. And now I come in, I don't want her to back fist me or anything or turn into me, so I come in and kind of bump here. And now it's whatever leg is easy for me. This one's kind of close to me, that one's kind of far. So this one might be just a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to strike, she's going to spin, and as I come down, I go right to the left side of her face, checking it here, and I can grab her and literally pull her back up as I come back into that heel palm and cross out towards full 30. Okay? All right, that is hugging pendulum. Now we have repeated devastation. This is a rear full Nelson grab. As an orange belt, it's an attempted full Nelson. She doesn't really lock her fingers. I mean, you can because we can still defend that, okay? But if she's reaching around my back here and going around my head, this works pretty well, all right? Unless she's smaller than me or I'm really strong. But if her hands interlace, this might not work anymore, especially if she's short and she's really yanking up on me so I can't lower my arms very well. Okay, with a taller person, I would be a little bit more upright. So what I get to do as a blue belt is I say, fine, I'm gonna sink down and throw these vertical punches to the face. And now that'll loosen up that grip. And now my elbow is gonna shoot down quick before she re-engages and I drive to strike to the face. And now we're left with these two little T-Rex arms. Left hand wraps over and grabs her right. Okay? I've seen schools before that'll grab like a handshake, like a reverse handshake, and then bend back and just hold a thumb. And that is really nasty when you do it that way. Sometimes I like to do it that way, okay? And as I come forward to 1 o'clock with my left foot, I go all the way around. I'm not gonna loosen up my left anchor here to keep her in place. I go all the way around to 9 o'clock and drive an elbow. It might be a downward, outward elbow. Whatever reaches the back of her face or the back of her ear, okay? And from here, the fight might be over. But what happens if I hit her in the shoulder or her head's really low around my waist and I just can't get this elbow? Now I go to the other side. So here I'm gonna do a front to back switch. Back to 6. And now look, this affords me to get real deep in this elbow. Puts her right in an arm lock. I can come here and there's a figure 4 lock on her arm. So what I'm gonna do instead, in our Kempo technique is grab her other hand, okay? And now I'm gonna take my right foot and step to 11 o'clock, okay? If you have to readjust here because you only get her fingertips, you pull, anchor, and reset. And now here I'm gonna go all the way around the clock, pulling this. Watch her body as I pull. See, it's like a puppet string. She starts sinking towards my elbow. And now as I unwind, I'm throwing an elbow towards 6. I'm trying to be aware of both my elbows pinning both her arms at the same time. As soon as I let go of one, I mean, I could be in a back clench at that point. So she's gonna try it again. She gets her fingers laced before I have a time to thrust down. So instead, I go downwards. Pin, and here. This pressure should stay the whole time. Feet in, grab the wrist, reverse handshake and grab the thumb. Here, however works. Okay, you can grab the thumb here in the palm of your own hand and take your fingers and wrap over the firing, and now we have our thumb and the thumb lock, okay? And it's really hard for her to pull her hands out that way, and it's nasty when I turn this corner around 1 o'clock, okay? So I'm just gonna grab her standard in this one this time. I'm gonna come in, paying attention to my left arm. Hold it. Okay. And now I bump up, pull her arm out, get deep at that elbow, and take access of the other hand. And now as I pull, she's gonna be pulling away. So she starts to pull away, I use this hand to keep her at bay. They come around the corner. That feeds into your extension. Okay, thank you very much. Now we have entangle wing. Entangle wing is like a brother-sister technique to captured leaves, okay? In our school, we do captured leaves from the front. I'm sorry, in our school, we do captured leaves from the side, okay? So she's grabbed my fingers from the side. I've already kind of done this before. And you've seen this in our school where we do these arm breaks and captured leaves. Those don't exist in here. That is a variation that you learn in entangled wing, this next technique. It's kind of the next step up, right? It's kind of an evolution to captured leaves. So in this technique, she's in front of us now. And maybe we're going for a handshake, but she grabs my arm and she loops around and she's here. We've been in this situation before as a yellow belt when instead of grabbing us in a arm lock, they have us in a wrist lock. And she tries to go over my shoulder like this, okay? With a figure 4 lock, I mean, she lands into mount, she's got me in a Kimura, or it'd be a key lock if she's on top. So what I want to do is stop the momentum of her going over my shoulder. Okay? There's variations of this where you put your hand on top of your own hand and you come down. I don't like that because if she's taller than me, she starts to push down, she's going to get me in this wrist lock anyway. So for me, I think about where's all the power coming from. If she's in a left neutral bow, her power's coming from the back. Okay? If she goes into a forward bow, now the power's coming from the back, but it's braced. And that is the only place that's generating a lot of power. So I really need to check that depth. So if we're here and she starts to push in and I do this, I'm not checking her depth. She goes into a forward bow, I'm in big trouble. She's gonna throw me right over, okay? So I'm gonna check at her forearm. So if we just spin this around slightly towards my new 12 o'clock, okay? And let's just take a couple steps back so I'll make sure our feet are in view. There we go. And she locks that up. I'm gonna step in with my right foot to try to check that right leg so I can't step in and gather even more momentum or more power. And I check against her forearm. Okay, you can do this with your forearm if you want to, but I like to have a little bit more place to work, so I use a heel palm. I know it's not the biggest block. You really want to be perpendicular with her, but for me, I get more room to work on grabbing her arms when I have some space between her and I. I don't want her to get close because the closer she gets, the more leverage she has, and it rolls me over, okay? So the concept of keeping my enemy real close and being perpendicular just doesn't work so good in this situation. So I push here, okay? And now I'm gonna curl. I'm gonna take my forearm and pull like I'm lifting weights. That's gonna trap this left arm just a little bit more in this grip. And as I do that, I rip an elbow under her chin, so that's what she's thinking about. And as I pull up and keep going vertical, it starts to roll her left arm. And it isolates that left wrist. So I just take my left hand and go on top of her left hand, and I dive in. And when I dive in, I can grab the wrist and roll over. And now I go into a forward bow, and I anchor down, okay? That's gonna put an immense amount of pressure on her forearm, especially if I'm taller than her. At the same time, my left elbow swings to the back kidney. And once I make contact from there, immediately from my, I want to call it a reverse bow, but I'm not really in a reverse bow because I'm not looking over my right shoulder towards my back foot. I'm looking over my left shoulder towards my right back foot. So I think it's still a forward bow here. I'm hitting, I unwind, and I grab the left wrist and pull down as I just track right under that to the solar plexus, to the chest, to the throat, depending on their height. And there it is. And now watch, I take my right hand, I loop inside, and I push as I cross and cover out towards 6. Okay? If we're doing this from 12 o'clock now, she's grabbing, maybe we're in a handshake, she overshot it. This isn't good for me, okay? If she steps in with her right leg, she has some backup mass here. You can't really predict how somebody's gonna step in with this technique. That's still a lot of power coming off that front leg because she stepped into it. So I'm gonna drive and check that leg. Knee comes up. I start to go into my reverse bow, trapping and rolling. You can see my hand is even on my neck here. I really like to get tight on this. Okay, that's an option if you'd like to take that option. Roll the wrist, pull to get that elbow lined up over your shoulder, and throw 1, grab, anchor down, and 2. And now I feed in and push. And this time I go out to 7:30. 4:30, sorry. There we go. So it doesn't really matter if they step in with their right foot or they do it as a reverse brace and angle. You still should be checking into that elbow because that's where the power is coming from, whatever foot maneuver it is, okay, or stance change. All right, I think we're good there. Now we have defying the storm. Let me grab a club. Okay, defying the storm is going into the eye of the attack. As a yellow belt, when she came overhead, I'd step outside of the range. Okay, not totally out of range because then I'd have to come back through the range, just outside the range of the weapon, but inside the range of her arm. When I get to purple belt, she did a wide roundhouse club. I came right inside, just like this. As a purple belt, she also went overhead, and I came to the outside underneath. As a blue belt, I'm going to take her right down the center one more time, but I'm not going to strike her face at this point. I'm going to do an arm break. Let's switch it around. Okay? So we just learned a different way to disarm this weapon. Okay, she comes in, I come in, this is a roundhouse club. Okay. It's okay. So I come in either two hands to her forearm with closed fist, just clobbering right into this. Okay? Or what I'd like to do is go to the bicep, where the bicep connects to the forearm and against the wrist. I'm here because my next move is at the elbow. Okay, so I just hook over the elbow and I do like a heel palm to the elbow as I anchor in with a crane and push out there. And if I do that fast, that wants to fall to the ground. I do an arm break right there. Okay, and now right from here, I just roll my hand. So I have like a baseball bat grip here, and I pull the elbow back, and I step through reverse. And now look, my thumb is on the back side of her hand, and my crane is around the elbow, okay? If they're pretty tall, you can even pull this down to the shoulder, and that works just as well, too. I like to control that elbow, because I'm gonna knee right at the ball of the shoulder here, as I'm still pulling. And as I land, I push with my thumb, plant right down the middle, and drive an elbow there, okay? Let's start on this side. So again, she does a roundhouse right hand club. I'm stepping in right there, crashing my knee against hers. I slip to the elbow, pull in, and push out. And now from here, you can just hook that elbow and turn as my thumb gets to the back of her hand. Okay? You can, from here, break and slide to the shoulder and use that as your anchor point as you spin around. I don't really think it matters as much how you do that. Okay? Either way, I'm going to pull against that joint and throw my knee to the shoulder, and she starts to lift up. See this right here? She goes right back down. I'm controlling that wrist with your thumb or just with your hand rolling over the top of that wrist. That's going to check her height as I drive this down. Okay? Let's try it from 6 o'clock for our new 12 o'clock. So we have 1, 2, boom, that drops that weapon. Thumb, rip back. See right here, I'm controlling that elbow, putting a lot of pressure on her elbow. And now I'm free to hit right down that line. She lifts up, I push down her wrist and drive that down. You have so many options from here. You can do a reverse bow, and as I pull her down, I have her in a Kimura. I have her in a wrist lock and a Kimura. Okay? It sets you up very well for an extension, whatever that extension may be. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, now we get into raking mace. This is a 2-hand lapel grab and pulling in. We did this as a white belt. Now as a white belt, when she grabs me, she can pull me in, and this teaches me to use opposing force. Now, it's not borrow force because I didn't cause her to pull me in. She just pulled me in on her own accord. If she doesn't pull me in, but she grabs me here and she's just yelling at me, even pinning me against the wall, I can step in and use my long-range weapon to create some space between us as a white belt. As a blue belt, the idea is she's pulling me in, so I have to bridge that gap. There might not be a lot of time for me to throw a long-range weapon because we're so close. So I use a short-range weapon. And I use a short-range weapon from where I'm found, which is point of origin low. So she pulls in, I step in and get her right there. It was just by my side, just a couple inches there, as my left hand comes over the top to hold her. Now you'll notice when I strike her with my right hand to the belly, I get a small reaction on her face. I'm going to borrow that force now. It's opposing force, but it's called borrowed because my strike to her belly caused her to come forward. Okay? So I get opposing force on the first strike to the belly, and now that gives me borrow force to her face. So one more time, she grabs, I step in. Okay? And now as soon as I get that reaction, I come around and hit her here. And now from here I have two forearms. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go across them like a windshield wiper and squeegee her in with both hands. So now she's low. She comes right into my outward chop to the throat. And now if I wanted to elbow her and she's being rigid, which is hold your arms real tight, like you're real tough, and I try to throw this elbow, I can barely hit her. This gets in my way. So from here, what I do is I clear. My left hand is already on top, it was craned. So I just let go of the right hand and I scoop into the left side. My left side, her right hand, okay? When I'm here, my hand just retracts like I'm doing snapping twig on purple belt, and I crane on this side, like an arm drag, and I do 2 arm drags. And look at that face is right there for a sandwich, okay? So it's a little bit of an extra move, but it makes sure that you're gonna get that elbow without her arms being jammed into your chest. So she grabs, and I step in, 1, 12, boom, 2, I feed that borrow force. Now, I'm going slow so I don't hit her by accident, but when she pulls and I get that reaction to the belly, see that right there? It's really hard to not hurt somebody when we do this in class, because in order to utilize that borrow force and get the best advantage out of it, she has to be in motion. So I cannot pause and go to the head. Because if I hit her in the belly and she bends forward, and she's all the way forward, and I come over, I'm hammer fisting her in the hardest part of her body. And I'm probably going to bust my hand up a little bit, or at least hurting myself. So I want to try to get to the eye socket or the jaw if I can. So I have to beat that reaction. So what do I have to do? I have to anticipate it. So she throws a pull. There it is. I'm going to beat that and hit to a nice soft spot. And now I roll my forearms in, 1, 2, to beat that reaction again. And now I'm going to borrow this force, boom, right there. Okay, and of course I'm shuffling in, but I'm trying to be careful so I don't hurt my wife. Let's try raking mace the opposite way. She's pulling in, I'm grabbing, 1, feeding that action. 2, I roll and feed out, okay? And now I scoop and strike as I drive in, okay? And then I'm out, however I want to exit the fight, okay? Good. Now we get Snake and Talon. Snake and Talon, there's a lot of stuff going on in Snake and Talon. It's kind of your introduction to using your surroundings as a weapon. In this technique, she's pushing off from a wall. So she's using the wall. It's her backdrop, okay? We don't really have a wall that's within camera range, so we're just going to do it right out in the open space. But she's against the wall, and she's kind of pushing me away. So I'm going to use the wall that's behind her as like a bouncing area to kind of bounce her off with my weapons. Now, if she pushes, there's a few different options. There's a high push to my chest. If I take my right hand and I do what comes natural to me, when I say figure 8 around somebody's arms, when I teach this to everybody, they all do this. They dive, right? So I'm drawing this path here. I can literally do this and not touch her. If she pushes me hard and I dive, on 3, ready? No, I mean hard. 1, 2, 3. She's still gonna hit me. I'm literally allowing her to hit me, okay? I wanna create a line where I have this big squeegee and I squeegee her arms away. This way I have margin of error. So she does it again. As a white belt, I just did that. Sorry if that hurts her elbow a little bit. There's just almost no way she can get past that, okay? But as a white belt, we didn't have a lot of skills. As a blue belt, we're gonna utilize two different things at once. So if you think of alternating maces, as we would step back and push, I kind of dive across. I'm not going to get rid of both of her arms this time. It makes it hard for me to grab. I'm going to learn a new scenario this time, which is like a Japanese jiu-jitsu style grab, a wrist lock to her. So as she comes in, I go downwards at an angle from, if the clock was facing me, 130 down to 730 with my line. And now here, as I get below her elbow, my hand starts to shoot up. This is my right hand, so I come down and shoot up. But that's not easy to do unless I utilize my other hand. So as she comes in again, I dive down, and I utilize my left hand to start to separate these two. So I'm offsetting them, creating a bigger space. And now my right hand can easily sneak in there. Now look at my hands. One rolls, one rolls. Well, they both roll, but they both roll in different directions. They're all going to my right, but they started from a different place in the room, facing different directions. So my left hand's facing the arm, my right hand's facing away. So I utilize a right hand chop, at least a chop motion with my hand, and my left just grabs. And I grab deep above the forearm if I can, because I have the ridge of her forearm for my pinky to kind of groove against. And I can use that to control that whole joint, so I get the wrist and the elbow. And I'm yanking her into a right cat stance. As I pull, I smash her right there. Okay? Now she's not going to go bounce anywhere because I'm holding on to her. I'm controlling her with some contact here. Boom. And now I'm looking at that wall and I'm saying, oh boy, I got a good plan here. I spin around right from here. Look at my hands. When I spin, they switch. My right hand was at her forearm and my left hand was high at her wrist, but they've switched at this point. That gives me some power, okay? And now I kick her right low wherever I can go, into the stomach, into the groin, all right? I prefer to go towards her stomach, this way I can lift her up a little bit. And now as I switch my kick, I go to the bridge of the nose and neck, the chest, and bounce her right off that wall and strike. Okay? Now I can definitely hit her in the groin with my first spinning kick, and her face comes down to me, lift up and kick, which Kelly had done once to somebody in class, and literally broke their nose, so it definitely works. But are you going to use the wall as your bounce pad, where either their head slams against the wall because you kick their chest into the wall? You can utilize this however you want, whatever works best for you. If you're a taller guy like me, it's easy for me to kick her in the chest or kick her in the face while she's rising. If you're shorter, you might want to kick in the groin and have her head coming down to that second kick. So again, she's pushing. I use a nice line right here. I dip, chop away, I already got this secured, and I pull her into this kick. One, boom. So now she's low. As I spin, heck, I can go for her face right now. I can lift her up by her face. And now that exposes everything else, I drive back and kick her right into the wall, or kick her into the groin, okay? There's no wrong way to do this technique as long as she's not landing on you. Let's try it from 12. She pushes, I grab, I kick, switch my hands. One, just gonna lift her up with a kick. Whoa, almost fell over. And now I switch, and my head goes to the other side as I kick, okay? Let's try it from this angle. It's a hard technique, a lot of moving parts. One, two, ball kick to any available target. Three, I spin. I don't want to waste a lot of time here. I don't want to give her a single leg when she's launching into me. One, plant, two, and I'm out. Okay? Snaking talon. It's this versus this. Okay, let's see how much time we've used here. Okay. We have shield and mace. So shield and mace is step to right punch. And it's just a straight punch. Let's go to the other side. So this right here is we're kind of learning to elongate our circles. We've done this in purple belt. But we're really going to make this a twirl with our arms. We're really going to do something different here that we've done before with these elongated circles, and see how typically we go line into circle, circle into line, but this one is really, well, what if I just wanted to do circles? What can I utilize? How many strikes can I utilize on these circles that are elongated but getting bigger and bigger as we go? It's a really cool technique. So as she throws the punch, I'm going to step, if this is my 12, I'm going to go to 10-30. I'm going to do that with a vertical check. So this check really works as a parry, but into a block when I plant my horse facing her. Because it blocks her from hitting me, okay? So one, here. And it's in motion too, okay? Some people can call this just a check. It's just a vertical check. But I can be striking her arm away, give me more access to her back. Okay? So every time she comes in, neutral bow, horse stance. And now right from here, my hands are going to switch. My left comes high, my right is going to go from here and rove down into a hammer fist. Here. You can see I turn my stance into a neutral bow. And now my left hand is at her shoulder. As my right hand continues this loop, as it drives down to an elongated circle, my left hand follows suit with a purpose. Sliding check. I get this out of the way. I got to time that right so there's a path of action for my right hand to come up under the chin with an upward chop, or maybe a claw to the face. And as I continue this circle, and I don't want to go way out here because it gives me too much space and she can press against my arm and cross-check me. So I'm going to keep this close so I'm still facing her as I drive down into this elongated circle and chop her leg. I utilize my right knee against her ankle to assist in turning her because I want access to that right there. Okay, so I'm here, my left hand is high. And now I bring my knee up, but I keep my left leg bent where it was. So I have access to that leg, and I'm out. You can use a bump here. There's a cool little technique. I'll show you. She throws this. 1, 2, 3, my neutral bow. I sink down, I drive here, and I move that. So just come up a little bit as if you didn't put the knee down on the ground. It's really hard for me to get access there, so watch what I do. I rise with my knee, and now I kick out that leg. Okay? It's already there, it's part of the line. Utilize it if you need it. Okay, let's go this way. This is the other side. As she steps in, 1, and I'm driving this thrust right here. 2, I switch my stance. Neutral, just goes down. Up, and now I drive into a close knee and I try to get in here. Access, stay low. So I can get under her hips unless you bump with your knee, which is a cool little technique. Let's go this way now. Straight punch, 1, 2, neutral, 3, drive, hit, and I'm out. And you can see on that one, her butt hit my leg. So kind of stopped access, even though I stayed really low for that kicker. She's a lot shorter than me. If I raised with my knee first and stood her up, that gives me a real clean access line. Okay, let's move on. We have retreating pendulum. Such a cool technique, but it's difficult because we have a line in a big circle going on at the same time, okay? Similar orbits, but the timing, because my weapons are different lengths and they're different shapes, I gotta be really careful with my timing here. So this one is a, where do we at? It's a left rear crossover into a heel kick, okay? So just switch your stance, No, you had it right the first time.
I know.
And now we're here, and before I shuffled back, now I'm going to twist stance because I'm matching her stance. Right? When she stepped through the first time to throw that kick, that is a pretty good size stance change for hugging pendulum. Hugging pendulum. But in this one, she's twisting in rear crossovering. So I'm going to do the same thing. This way I'm not out of range here. And I also want access to her back leg. So I don't want to take a big shuffle backwards and lose all this space and lose my targets. Okay? So I'm kind of matching what she's doing. So as she throws that kick, there we are. I drop that. Gives me such great access to her leg, her left leg. So as I block this, I don't just stop here and come back in like hugging pendulum. I continue this orbit to new lesson. And I do that as I shoot a straight kick, a ball kick to the back of her leg. If I'm close enough to that back leg, I would use a knife edge kick because it's a lot of thrusting power, okay? And it gives me more surface. I'm perpendicular with her leg. There's more margin for error too with a knife edge kick, but if you don't have that distance correct, it's not easy to throw that kick. So for me, right here, I'm gonna throw a ball kick. And as she starts doing that wobbly thing, my right hand's still coming over the top and I land right on the base of her skull, here. And now right from here, I'm striking low, so I'm checking high.
I just go to a reverse bow and heel scoop the groin. And now my right hand is going to follow this pattern here. In a circle, as I plant and buckle this leg, my heel palm just checks low. Or heel palms her if she's still sitting up. Okay? Let's say that she was here and I scooped, but I missed. I hit her in the leg. So she might be coming back towards me like that. Okay? So as I scoop, I buckle, and there's my heel palm to the back of the ear, ensuring she's going forward, which sets up my extension when she's on her belly. Okay? It's a cool technique. Let's go this way. So she throws the kick, I cross behind, I step in 1, boom, 2 right there. And now I'm right at the groin, scoop it, buckle, and make sure she goes forward. So I'm in my reverse bow, and now I snake out. Okay, I'll do this on my own from here. So 1, left hand comes in as my check. I kick, plant at the same time, scoop from 3 to 9 sideways, and change the angle to the corner of the room. And my reverse bow as I check out. Now I come out towards 10:30. Okay, good. Let's move on. Tripping arrow. This is a bear hug from the front, arms free. Let's go from this direction. She comes in. Her goal might be to pick me up, which she's never going to do, but she can try. So what I want to do is step out to my left to check her height and use something we learned in Orange Belt with, what was this, thrusting prongs. We use this overhook to keep her close to me. So it's just a control device, okay? So again, she's here, she wants to pick me up. I'm gonna come to the side and use this overhook to drive her down, anchor my elbow. If I just hold her down like this, pull your right arm out and punch me in the face. Boom, okay? So what I'm gonna do is pin her down and hold on to that left arm, okay? And now from here, as that happens, my right hand was circling in, and I'm doing a circular inward heel palm to the back of the ear. So all together, it is, uh-oh, I'm in a bad place, I drop. Okay? Now, she might not have let go of me yet at this point. So what I want to do is get my right elbow, and I'll do this from a different angle, between her arm and my ribs. And as I drive that down, I'm going to C-step around her leg, and that reloads my right hand to strike to the face. So I go into a forward bow as I strike her down to the ground. And you can see that sets up almost every time her elbow's right at the back of my knee. So if I just use my legs to change levels, it puts her in a nice little arm lock. I can push down on the wrist, and there's the wrist lock at the same time. It's very uncomfortable. And now from here, I do a heel kick to the face, and I stomp. Clear, and I'm out. Okay? Let's face this direction so you can see the arm release here. So she's grabbing me. Uh-oh. Down. Look at my elbow. It's on the outside of her arm, so I snake it in. It might ruin the flow of your technique, but it doesn't matter. This is a bear hug, okay? If this wasn't a small woman attacking me, it'd be a big deal. So I have to take the time to get this elbow in here. And as I do that, I'm gonna come up into my cat to step around her leg, control her left arm, and forward bow as I strike her jaw, her face, her nose. You might not have a lot of room to throw this kick with your left leg up here close to her armpit, so you can step back if you need to, throw the kick, and stop the wrist. It's okay to make adjustments for your body size, okay? Let's do it from 12 o'clock this time. She grabs, I step out, boom. It's my cat. Trip. This is tripping arrow, I'm a bow. And my arm is the arrow, okay? I kick and stop. You can see how I adjust my left foot just a little bit. When I'm here, I have to step back just a little bit to make sure that I have the stability to throw this kick. I don't want to throw this kick like this, this close to my leg. If I drop back a little bit so I have some stability in my legs as I cross out, okay? Tripping arrow.